If you do have a child in your lap, that's fine. They might even see better, but they got to stay all the way seated facing forward in that same lap the entire journey. That's for safety. This is a real truck. I'm really driving it, so you really got to sit down. If you want to take photos, I do recommend having your phones or cameras out and ready. Maybe even set to something like sports mode or live mode, just because you never know when an animal's going to show up. We do have a lot of ground to cover, and it can get a little bumpy out here. Our first stop is the Little Itury Forest. Some of the animals in here can be a little shy or well camouflaged. I do see on your left up on that hill a black, white, and orange bird called the saddle-billed stork. Their wingspan is about the width of the canopy above you, which is about 9 feet, so it's a pretty impressive wingspan. On the right side in that corner by the bamboo, I do also see an animal called the okapi. Now, even though the okapi looks like it's wearing zebra pants, they are the closest relative to the giraffe. Both the okapi and the giraffe have a dark purple tongue, most likely to help protect the tongue from the sun while they're eating. Okapi are also known as the ghost of the forest because the Western world didn't believe they existed until 1901. A lot of these animals rely on these trees for hiding. Many of them have stripes on their sides to help them blend in with the surrounding trees. So things like deforestation can impact these animals greatly. You might also notice there's a lot of bamboo around us as well. That bamboo is a really fantastic resource. It grows very quickly, so you can replenish bamboo much faster than trees. So anytime you see bamboo products available in place of paper products, that's a really great way to help out these animals and try and slow down deforestation a little bit. On the right here, I see some antelopes. These copper antelopes are called bongos. Bongos' horns tilt backwards like that so they don't get tangled in the underbrush when they're moving through the bushes. And the light tan antelope that I see ahead of us, there's one about to cross the ride path it looks like. So they'll be on your left side. These are called greater kudu. Now greater kudu are kind of like the deer of Africa. They're pretty common over there, and so they're one of the animals out here that is not endangered. It looks like these trees are beginning to open up a little bit, which means that we are leaving the forest and getting closer to the Sapi River. So now we want to keep an eye out for any aquatic wildlife, for any animals that may just enjoy a watering hole. And I do see on the right side here some pink-backed pelicans. They do get their name for the pink coloring on their backs, which is most prominent during their mating season. So how pink they actually look will change throughout the year. They also have large bills and can expand to hold lots of water, including entire fish. Love saving a snack for later. We also want to keep an eye out for hippos in the area. This environment is very appealing for a Nile hippopotamus. Here's one sticking out of the water. They like to stay submerged in the water to protect themselves from the sun, and they can hold their breath there for up to several minutes at a time. Now, when they're moving in the water, they're not usually swimming. They're not very good at swimming. They're usually walking along the bottom. In fact, hippopotamus roughly translates to water horse, so it's a big part of how they get their name. Despite their big, powerful jaws, they do eat vegetation. The jaws have another purpose, which is to show dominance. So whoever can open their mouth the widest, they get to be in charge. If you've ever played Hungry Hungry Hippo, it kind of looks like that. And a group of hippos is called a bloat. In fact, I think I see a bloat on your left there. There's a few, it looks like, hanging out. Now, speaking of big, powerful jaws, we also want to look for any Nile crocodiles that might be nearby. And I think I see one on your left, way over on shore there. Now, if you're looking in the water as we go over this bridge, they look like big muddy logs in the water. They're pretty good at blending in, but they like being up on shore as well. They have extra plating on their backs that looks like water. So it's like solar panels. That's where the solar sunlight to stay nice and warm, which is great because they're cold-blooded. They're relying on outside sources of heat. That's why they sunbathe so often. It gives them more control over their body temperature. So next time that you're at the beach laying in the sun, you can feel like a crocodile. Now it looks like our terrain is changing again. While in the river, those animals rely on water all the time. In the West Savannah, these animals have to deal with a rainy season and a dry season. So during the dry season, they got to figure out how to find water, retain water, regulate their temperature when there's not a lot of water out there to help them with that. The West Savannah is also really large and flat for the most part, so that means that you might see a few different animals kind of at the same time or spread out or even way off in the distance. So I'm going to talk about an animal whenever we get closer to one so you can see it better. But feel free to look around yourself as well. We have those animal spotting guides above you. If you don't want to wait to know what you're looking at, you can play a little I Spy. Now it looks like right away on the right side, we have some Ankole cattle. Now most of them look to be younger, like young adults, but if you look farther back, that one a little farther back has really large horns. So that's the fully grown Ankole cattle. Eventually all their horns will be just as big as his, so about 3 to 4 times what they are now. Now their horns are not as heavy as they look. They're honeycombed on the inside, allowing for extra blood circulation to keep them nice and cool when it's hot out. So those great big horns are practically hollow. Both the male and female Ankole cattle get those horns. They both got to cool down. In fact, most of those appear to be female over there. And they are a domesticated animal. They were domesticated by the Watusi people, so they're also known as Watusi cattle. They get more than one name. Now we're reaching a time of day where we're getting closer to night. We're getting closer to a time where you're going to have a lot of predators coming out. So that means we might have a lot of prey animals starting to try to find places to hide or hunker down for the night. I do, however, see some wildebeest on the left here. These gray animals with the long faces and lovely beards. Wildebeest means wild beast in Afrikaans, and they travel in herds of up to 10 to 1,000. So they get into pretty big groups there. When all those groups come together to migrate, they can be in numbers up to 1.5 million. Wildebeest definitely like to stick together. Now also around us here, I see some really large structures. These are termite mounds. So termites will build entire communities in here. They can get very tall. Termites will make these out of dirt, saliva, and dung. Home sweet home. And they can be as hard as concrete. In fact, sometimes rhinos will use them to sharpen or file down their horns, which are made out of keratin, like your fingernails or hair. So when rhinos do that, it's kind of just like filing down a fingernail. It's not going to hurt the rhino at all. They just get to be their own nail tech a little bit. A fun result of that is a lot of rhinos having very uniquely shaped horns from them all filing them down differently. You can see those Ankole cattle again on your right. And it looks like we have a few more termite mounds over here as well as some more wildebeest. Not too surprising. Again, they like to follow in large groups. So it makes sense to see a lot of them all over the place. They might be one of the few prey animals kind of scraggling behind because they know as long as they stick together, they don't have to worry too much about hiding from those predators. Got another one on the right here. Looks like this one's digging for something. Very fun animals to look at. I do see on the right up here a very large antelope called an eland. It's the largest type of antelope you'll see out here. They're similar in size to those Ankole cattle. They have saggy skin on their throat called a dewlap, which is for temperature regulation. And on the left, it looks like we have a few Maasai giraffes. A group of giraffes is called a tower. Yeah, a tower. I can tell those are Maasai giraffes because their brown spots have jagged edges. On a reticulated giraffe, those spots would have more rounded edges. Giraffes only sleep for a total of about 30 minutes a day, broken up and spread out throughout the day. They do not sleep very much, just a lot of power naps. And there's only 30,000 Maasai giraffes that are left. They're going through what's known as a silent extinction, which is when people aren't super aware an animal's endangered. So an easy way we can help with that is simply by spreading the word. Sometimes conservation can be as easy as a conversation. On the right here, I do see an African elephant pretty close to us here. We have a great view of this one. They have those magnificent ears. African elephants have larger ears than Asian elephants. Some people also like to say that their ears are shaped like the continent of Africa, which is just a really fun coincidence they have there. Now, if you ever see an elephant flapping their ears, they're not trying to fly away like Dumbo. They're trying to help cool down. They have blood vessels behind their ears that are going to help with that. And another way they'll try to cool down, did you notice a light tan color on the elephant's back? That is dirt and sand that they'll put on their backs and their heads to create a barrier between their skin and the sun. So kind of like how we use sunscreen or wear certain clothing to protect ourselves from the sun. See, all of these animals, they have traits they've developed over time to help them with their surroundings, and it helps them do a lot of cool things, but they can't do everything, and they also can't go to the store and get whatever they need the way humans can, right? So they have to come up with other solutions, and it's pretty cool to see what different animals come up with. Then they get really creative with it, like the dirt and sand on the back for the elephants. And those solutions can be for any number of things, but finding different ways to protect from the sun is pretty popular. That'd be popular with me too, if I was outside all the time. Down here, it looks like we have some red clay forming around us. See if you can find any markings in the clay. So any kind of long gashes, kind of slash marks. I see some on both sides here. Looks like there's some on the right, a little lower down, that are easier to see. All of these markings are from the tusks of elephants. And I see more elephants, I think, coming up here. So elephants will use their tusks to dig into the clay and get some extra nutrients, much like a multivitamin you might take in the morning. Eating that clay helps them supplement their diet, so it's another one of those creative solutions we were talking about. Here's an elephant pretty close to us on the left, it looks like. These ones are hanging out by some very large trees. These are baobab trees, which are also known as the tree of life. That's because during the rainy season, they collect lots of water inside of them. And then during the dry season, animals are able to access the water that is already inside of the trees after elephants put holes in the trees with their tusks. So those tusks are really important, not only for the elephants, but all the animals around them. Unfortunately, their tusks are often what elephants are poached for. The ivory is considered quite valuable, so we want to do everything we can to help put a stop to that poaching. If you look to your left there, you can see that elephant again. The elephants are matriarchal. They're led by the oldest and wisest female. She's going to remember where all their best food and water sources are. You may have heard that an elephant never forgets. That's because they do have excellent memory. And they also eat a lot. They eat up to hundreds of pounds of food a day. Definitely want to remember all that food is. Now up ahead here, I see some flamingos. Now they're pretty big, but not super pink, these ones. So these are greater flamingos. Usually people are thinking of lesser flamingos or Caribbean flamingos, but all flamingos start out gray in color. They get their pink color slowly over time from the shrimp that they eat, as well as other organisms that are in the water. It can take about 2 years for that pink color to really come in. And a group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. A flamboyance of flamingos. They get a fun name. Now, as we make our way into the much more dense East Savannah, I see some southern white rhinos waiting for us. So look to your left. As I pull forward, they're hanging out over in that corner there. Now, southern white rhinos are pretty social compared to some other types of rhinos. These ones prefer to be in a group. They're kind of like 5,000-pound puppy dogs. A group of rhinos is called a crash. And white rhino is a mistranslation. They're originally called white rhinos. White does not mean white, it means wide, which is in reference to the wide mouth shape. Lots of different types of rhinos have different mouth shapes, so it's a great way to tell them apart. And they're hanging out by this mud to our left as well. They can use that to cool down and protect from the sun, just like how we talked about with the hippos and the elephants. You can see them a little better on your left there. As we move forward, we also want to keep an eye out for any animals utilizing camouflage, and I recommend looking for movement rather than the animal itself. Swishing tails, twitching ears, walking around really makes these cheetahs on your left easier for us to see. So there's that one that's sitting nice for us right there, and then there's also one in the middle, the base of those trees it looks like. The real trick is seeing how many cheetahs you can find in there. They're so good at hiding. Cheetahs can run up to 60 miles per hour, but not for very long. They're built for speed, not distance. So they can run about the length of 2 football fields, and then they'll slow down. And they can reach that top speed of 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds is as fast as some roller coasters taking off. It is very fast and the fastest land animal. Now up ahead here I see some very large rocks. These look like Kopi rocks, which are what lions like to lay on, like Pride Rock in the Lion King. And I think I see some lions maybe hanging out on the other side of these rocks. So let's see if we can get a better view of them. I'm going to drive around these rocks and we'll see what we can see. These large rocks give them higher vantage points. If you have a cat at home that likes to get up on the fridge, it's a similar idea. Female lions will do the hunting, while male lions stay at home and take care of the kids. But all lions are very sleepy animals. They will sleep up to 20 hours a day, so almost the full 24. And it looks like we're getting closer to some of them. I see a male lion, I see a female lion, and they both look awake for us right now. That's pretty lucky for us. I will say that even though they sleep most of the day, they are more likely to be active towards the nighttime or at night.
Warthogs coming up on our left, and I'm really glad they're up and moving around. When they're laying still, they just look like hairy rocks. They're really easy to miss. Warthogs are one of the largest burrowing animals. They're also extremely
Now,
intelligent.
the fastest two-legged animal, reaching speeds up to 43 miles per hour. And while they can't fly, they can glide a bit. They're actually going to use those wings to help them steer as they're running.
Make sure you listen out for the market. So there's a better look at the water bug on the right, as well as some of those white rhinos. You might notice that water bug's nose is in the shape of a heart. Additionally, they're going to have an oil that secretes from their skin. That's going to allow their hair to grow so long like it is and shaggy. Now on the right, something incredibly special out here are some ostrich eggs. There's a total of 6 out here on the reserve. Now those eggs are incredibly durable. They can weigh up to 3 pounds apiece.
Now up ahead of us, there is a type of antelope, but also those ostriches again on the right hand side. But this antelope here is called a water buck. They have heart-shaped noses, which is super cute. Now they get their name because they drink an unusually large amount of water, especially for an antelope. So they're usually found next to some sort of permanent water source. And that is a female, we can tell because she doesn't have any horns. And she's a very gorgeous girl, but she's also a very greasy girl. Waterbuck have really oily, greasy, and smelly coats that help them find other waterbuck. It also helps waterproof their coat a little bit, just like a rain jacket. And I saw those ostriches back there. If you look down the right-hand side of the grass, those are ostrich eggs down there. Now those eggs are going to weigh about 3 pounds each, and they are super strong. They're actually able to withstand the full weight of an ostrich. For the females, it's about 200 pounds, but males will weigh almost 300 pounds. So there's some seriously strong eggs there. And you can fit about 2 dozen chicken eggs inside of just one ostrich egg.
They've now had babies, even grandbabies of their own, contributing even further to the population's growth, which is so cool. That there's so important conservation.
Alright, we are coming up to the Warden's Post next. And I can already see some Nigerian dwarf goats hanging out over here. Nigerian dwarf goats are great climbers, and they're great for agriculture because we can get a lot of products from them in a relatively small space. If you can see that yellow box hanging out front, it's one of those beehive fences that I mentioned earlier as part of the Elephants and Bees project over in Kenya. Now these goats are so super cute, but they're also really helpful. They're gonna eat things like weedy undergrowth, ivy, and blackberries other livestock will not eat. And that helps improve pastures. They also have rectangular pupils that allows them to see further out to the sides. Alright, now we've seen a lot of amazing animals today, but most of those are considered endangered. And that is all through the Disney Conservation Fund. If you ever want to help out with that, you can go up to any register here in the park and donate directly, or you can just round up any of your purchases. That money will go to the Disney Conservation Fund, and Disney will double your donation. So lots of stuff you can do there. We are getting closer to the village. I will say, for any wilderness explorers, you've been on board the Simba 1. That is the Simba 1 on page 17 of your guidebook. Again, my name is Ashton from Florida. And thank you so much for joining me. If you do want to learn more, you can go to Disney Plus, check out the show The Magic of Animal Kingdom, or if you don't have Disney Plus, you can still go to DisneyAnimals.com. Both of those are great resources for learning more about these animals, as well as some of their backstories, personalities, how we take care of them. So there's still plenty of ways y'all can learn, see, and help out animals out there, and I hope that you do. If we don't like say goodbye, that's too sad. We say Kwaherini, which means go well. So go well, go wild, drink lots of